plan for today is I'm going to explain a little bit of how you can set yourself up to draw comics, what I recommend you use right away, the things you have to start thinking about before you begin drawing comics, and why you should get these resources. They don't have to be paid resources. Any type of free resources work just fine. The key point is that you should set yourself up for success. And what do I mean by that? The goal is to do this as fast as possible with the least amount of energy from you. Because comic pages aren't a sprint, they're marathons. They take very long to do. Anything, any idea you want will take very long. So you have to keep yourself engaged with the drawing, which for me is always a struggle. If I don't finish a drawing in one sitting, I quickly lose interest in finishing it all. And to avoid that struggle, there are some really good resources you can use. Okay? For two reasons. To avoid losing interest in the drawing because you're taking forever, and also to make it easy for you to do something that looks good. And I'll explain with this little PowerPoint. I did a side-by-side of, on the left, me drawing with no reference, just the basic idea, no resources, okay? Just basic pen. The pen is one of the resources I got, but it's not a special pen or anything. You'll see the process of, okay. General idea, just wanted to draw Dick looking at some tentacles, because I thought it would be fun, and it would let me use a lot of sound effects. And you can see that a lot of time goes into drawing basic stuff, which is fine when you're doing an illustration, because the point is you're going to spend a lot of time usually drawing a character. But on the right, I use resources for everything. I use a resource to see how I usually draw Dick's hair. I use a resource of a human head to set Dick looking up. I use resources for basically everything. And you see, I didn't use a resource for the body. And immediately I took a lot longer doing that. You don't have to use all these resources. I use them, a lot of them, on purpose, just so you could see how many you could fit into a small panel. So, side by side, the two of them, I would say the right one looks better. And why does it look better? A lot of reasons. The most obvious reason is the sound effects. Sound effects are huge. I didn't use them. I only started using them very, very recently. And I found out that they make a huge difference. I can show you a comic I did. Let me see if I can actually share it with you, because it's not safe for work. You've probably seen it. But let me see one. Even in that my Brudick comic, this is not safe for work. Oh man, okay. The image is self-explanatory. When he gasps here, it works. You can draw the speech bubble yourself. You can draw the words yourself. But it will always look better if you either use fonts, like write it with a specific font, and you can download a lot of them. Actually, there are a lot of websites with free fonts you can use, both for commercial use and for non-commercial use. So you could do a lot of stuff with that. This one, for example, is really cool. Very easy to use in Clip Studio Paint and any software. This you can download it and even upload it to stuff like Word. So very easy to use and does a huge difference when you're drawing a comic. Okay. References in general, don't be afraid to use them. If it helps you, if it makes it easier to draw, definitely don't be afraid to use them. Don't be afraid to use Pinterest images that you've seen people use 1,000 times. I know, for example, I know several artists that are huge on Twitter that just recycle Twitter images over and over and use like the exact lines of the human figure to draw their own OCs on top of that, and that's fine. Don't be afraid to use them, okay? Because it'll save you a lot of time, everything will look better, and what matters is what you put on top of it. Even if you collage a lot of references. Second point is, you might have noticed the textures in this picture. The background texture is this, I think. It's one of those resources I put under brushes and resources. I think this one isn't free, but I say this one, any texture will do. There are a lot of free textures as well, I'm sure. Search for them, they make a huge difference. This is just me using a basic color in the background. Makes a huge difference. Then down here you can see I used gradient maps to color this image. Also really easy to use. Can even show you. Okay, took a little screenshot. Now I usually use aggregate everything into one picture, like merge to a new layer. Then I duplicate the layer, and this is obviously in Clip Studio Paint, but I'm sure other drawing programs have similar features. And if you use gradient maps, these are a set of gradients that I had downloaded previously. They're easy to use, easy to manipulate. Each one of them gives a different flavor, if you will, to the image, which I think is really nice. If you want to keep a coherent idea throughout your comic, this can be a really great way to do it, because you don't have to think about how it's going to be colored. At the end, everything will look similar enough that it'll look cohesive. Which I struggled a little bit with that when I was drawing my first Brudik comic, Face Off, because I didn't do this. I went and chose every picture, every color for every little thing, and that becomes a nightmare when you're drawing more than one comic page, because you want the next comic page to look just as good as the previous one without it looking the same. So you have to use the same colors, but in different ways, in a way that still looks good. And that's not easy if you want it to look different from the previous page. I should have everything open, but I didn't. Okay, I can use this though. I can use this. I have the example from my most recent comic in my previous one. So, okay. This is my first foray into drawing, not comics in general, but comics for this fandom. I picked every color by itself, and this is, I can't tell you that you'll produce the same results if you don't use gradient map. If you use a gradient map, you won't, okay? Because this gradient maps are all about what level things are, but you can do what level, I mean, this, everything that's this saturation will be colored with the same color. Everything that's this saturation will be colored with the same color. For example, this bit will be colored the same way as his symbol and his face. So that will always be something to think about, okay? But it's still much easier than to do this, which is every panel colored individually, and then the next one being this in similar colors, okay? It'll be much faster, I can guarantee. And that way you can also get some cool effects that you couldn't get otherwise. For example, with this one, I can show you the original one. Let me see, please. We drag. Okay. I actually kept the original one accidentally, so I can show you that. Okay, so this was the original one before I started applying gradient maps. And if you see a side-by-side comparison with the gradient maps, one thing you can do is, you see this effect where it shifted into a different color because the saturation differed. It does this nice line of greenish blue around it that I really like. And this is the type of thing that happens when you do textures. If you do a lot of textures like I did here, the gradient maps will pick that up and do something cool in the background. It'll do a cool effect without you having to do a lot of work, basically. And this picture, actually, this is a great example of why having resources is so important. So I drew these poles by hand. I drew this bike with a reference behind it. I just did brushwork over a reference that I copy-pasted here and then edited slightly to fit the size of the picture and the way his bike was rolling. But these buildings, I have a lot of trouble drawing buildings. I've tried before and I haven't been successful once, and I've tried several times. So what I did was I got a brush. So one of the things I shared is actually a brush, super useful for us, people that like to draw cityscapes. If only I could find it. Let me see. Here, I think this is it. Okay, just it crashed. Okay, don't have to crash on me, baby. Come on. I have too much shit open. Okay. building. This isn't it. Although this one is also nice. This one? No. I have so many resources. See, this is the issue with having too many resources. Sometimes when you want to find something. Oh, you're talking in the chat? Oh, okay. I see it. Didn't have that chat open, but I do now. And I really wanted to find this so you could. I'm taking way too long, which is a shame, but it's one of the things I shared. Let me open on Discord. Okay. It's this one. It's a very simple brush that just puts the cityscape in the background, just the lights of the cityscape. But that's enough to give a simple but powerful background. It's not just brushes. When I said, for example, when I said sound effects, this is from another resource pack. I have a lot of them. Sound effects, for example, these are pictures you can just drag and drop. Clip Studio, this isn't obviously a Clip Studio. I'm not trying to sell Clip Studio, but it's very useful when you're talking about resources. They have the whole asset page. Okay, this is what I wanted to share. With free assets. I use this a lot. It's really, really useful. All of the resources I've used in my comics you can find here, including the gradient maps. So you can make those, obviously, you can make your own gradient maps. You can even, when you get the hang of them, they're not that difficult to do. But there are free resources for stuff like that. Yes, there are a lot of CSP has a lot of stuff specific to comic books. A lot of mangakas use CSP. If I can share it with you, for example, if you know the manga Madke, Madk. If you know that one, for example, this is all clearly this is a comic manga artist. There's one. Please don't crash on me again. There's one in specific that's really, you can see that it's from a mangaka. Or this one, for example. I have this manga up on my shelf right now. They use this a lot, so I find a lot of stuff that's in mangas here, like textures, backgrounds. These are really useful. This background of dogs, a lot of this I see in comics. This one also. It's a little fun to see your mangakas here. These are just the ones I've downloaded, by the way. There are a lot more assets. Even I've tried developing assets. It's fun. Okay. Any questions on this? On resources or? Hey, love.
All my niggas ballin' like Curry.
I keep forgetting that that's on there.
Okay. We started a little bit earlier. I went over how to set yourself up for success and what resources I think you should get before even starting a journey drawing comics. Now I'm just waiting. This is all being recorded, by the way, love. So the first part of this where I spoke about the different resources will be available later. First step, by Clip Studio. Well, I will say that it's the best investment after my drawing table. It's the best investment I've ever done. The one where you buy Clip Studio forever, by the way, not the subscription. No, the full. I bought the first Clip Studio 1, so I know they have the second one now, but screw that. No, it wasn't. It was very comparatively inexpensive, like $40, something like that. Not $400. Okay, I'll answer the last one before I answer the first one. So, do I use a tablet or an iPad? I use a drawing table. More specifically, I use this one. I also have an iPad. I don't draw as well on the iPad. I'm still not used to it. I use this. This is my go-to drawing table. Not the D16. This is the one that I had before. I have the D22. This one. Huge. They're not as expensive as you would think. I bought this one for myself this one. I actually don't suggest buying this one. I upgraded my D16 for a D22 because it was the bigger version, and it is. It's a huge beast. I'll take a picture of my setup right now so you can see. It's a little bit too big. But I really like having a drawing table instead of an iPad. It's just a different experience, honestly. I use the iPad because I need it. Okay, I can't access the Steam room because I'm not in the stream on my telephone, so I'll just share in general. Okay, as for the other question of what's the line between using resources and bad tracing. So, one thing you can't do is pick up art from other creators and trace over that. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Usually when you have assets on Pinterest, you should use those. For example, I pick up, this is an image off of Pinterest. Just, you can pick up the image, copy paste it onto a screen, start using the same lines as the picture. I'm not saying be as, I'm not saying trace it exactly, but you can definitely use it as a reference and then take off the picture and just draw yourself, if that makes sense. I find this is really useful, especially when I want to draw clothing. I'm not great at drawing clothing, and so I might use, for example, I might use this reference of a jacket. See where it folds, where things go, where the hands go, what size the hands are in comparison to the lapels and everything. Yeah. And then you can go over and delete what you did. Basically make it your own after you've traced the picture underneath. This will save you a lot of time, especially when you're drawing comics, but not just comics, illustrations in general. I mean, most of us aren't from an art background. I certainly am not. And if I spent... I don't have time in my day to go learn anatomy and to go learn everything. So I don't. Otherwise I would not be here drawing anything. I would just be drawing faces and hands and stuff that I'm slowly learning. Obviously you still learn doing this. And you just get stuff done a lot faster. Yeah, after a while you do figure out where everything goes. But still, even if you think you know, you don't have to stick to your own art. For example, here, this is me drawing without any references. And this is me drawing with a reference. And I don't use a reference for faces every time, but if they're looking up or they're in a weird angle, definitely go use a reference. Okay. I think you don't have any more questions about using references in general, but if you do, drop them there. Yeah, Pinterest has so much. I use Pinterest a lot, and I see a lot of, as I said before, I see a lot of popular Twitter users that copy the poses of, and they do it in a good way. I'm not saying this is bad, for quite the contrary. Yeah. The issue with Google image search versus Pinterest is that Pinterest usually is filled with images that look aesthetically pleasing, while Google search, not so much. You can filter that. There's a way to filter most AI sites. I don't remember. I can find that for you later, but basically what you do is you go to settings and you block some of the most popular websites that post AI. It's really good. At least on Chrome, I'm pretty sure Chrome, Firefox, you can block websites from appearing when you search for them. Okay, so I'm just gonna go over the second part of this, which is this is a very small presentation. I will obviously respond to any questions you have, for sure, but these are just the basics. So what I wanted to talk about after this is speech bubbles. It's a little counterintuitive, but it's important that you don't do huge speech bubbles when the characters are close to the quote-unquote screen. When you're drawing, your first instinct will be to make a huge bubble for the closer you are to the screen, the bigger the font size you want, and the further away you are, or if you're whispering, then the font should be a lot smaller. Don't do this. There's a reason this isn't done in comics and in mangas. The only time the font size usually changes is when the characters are screaming, and even then it's more of a sound effect than of a font size. Okay? There are a lot of there are a lot of reasons not to make bigger font sizes, but I can tell you from first-hand experience that I did this when I drew Face Off, and it was a nightmare because I realized too late that I wasn't doing what I wanted to do with the comic, and it made it very difficult to decide what font size I wanted to use for each speech bubble, what type of font also, because I didn't have a specific font, or I used a font that I didn't like at the end. And I still struggle with this because I choose a font size and then, okay, you'll have to edit everything, and I did that, and it sucked because there are like 11 pages and I had to edit all of them. And I'm telling you this right now, it's not a fun experience, and it'll save you a lot of time, and it'll feel better if you use the same font size and smaller bubbles, because you can also see a lot more of the screen. I don't know what size of panels you want to do, but if you're doing a small panel and the character is close to the screen, if you immediately do a huge speech bubble, this will take up a lot of the screen for no reason, because it'll be harder to read also, and there's no reason for that. And also, it robs you of the opportunity to draw a great background, for example, or some more details on the character, because you suddenly have to fill the whole page with just text. So, that's the last thing I wanted to share. Because now I'm going to just pick up an idea and draw. Do you guys have any questions I can address before I start drawing, basically? Clip Studio actually has a cool feature where you can draw the frames, and it even comes with special tools to draw each frame, and it looks great. You can draw whatever you want, and it'll do these things. I still haven't been able to use them. I've tried, but this just isn't it for me. This takes way too long to set up, and then you can only draw inside the line, which, I don't know, it's not for me, I think. I'm sure a lot of professionals use it, but I hate it, so. I just do this and doodle on top. Okay. Just random name. So, I was thinking of drawing some 80s, 70s camp killer vibe thing. If you know the camp killer movies, I admit I'm not very well versed, but I did watch a lot of people play Friday the 16th. The 13th? Is it the 13th? Maybe it is. That's how little I know. But I did watch a lot of people play that, and I was thinking that, but make it Slavic. So I'm just looking up some references. Obviously, I can't make it not safe for work because I will be posting this on YouTube just so I can share it with everyone else later. But I can make it suggestive. Slavic Mike Myers. Is he Slavic? He's blonde. At least he was blonde. Okay. What are some iconic vintage sneakers? Yep, perfect. Also, I didn't mention it, but I am using a Tourbox. If you're familiar with that, it's super useful. And if you see me switching rapidly between brushes and between the eraser and stuff, and not moving my cursor, it's because I'm using that instead. Okay. So for sketches, what I always do is I set a very low opacity on my brush or on my canvas, because that's easier for me when I'm drawing than when I use full opacity, because I can't see as well. So I just have to trust that the doodle looks good enough. And it's basically, it means I draw less when I'm in my sketch phase, which is good. You don't want to draw too much in your sketch phase. You want it to be really simple, because then you're gonna go over it. Okay, what should I draw? Camp environment. a sign. I have no idea what's a good name for American camp. I have no idea. Laszlo. Sure. Let me borrow that. Isn't that a cartoon? Pretty sure. It is. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going with those outfits though. I wanted to draw something a lot more interesting than that. I mean, not interesting, but vintage and sexy. Of course there is. Of course there's a Pinterest board. Let me see. Oh, Wedge, why don't you work as you should? Ever. Yeah, I was thinking like the 70s, 80s style would be great. Missing sneaker. Will be a little bit roughed up because the victim was running. Thinking maybe to draw. I was thinking it'd be cool to draw the Titans, for example. Trying looking for their missing friend. This doesn't look discarded enough. I have to see what I can find. To be much closer to the pitch than them. It's also easier for me to completely erase what I was drawing before if I set it on a lower opacity, because my first instinct when I don't have it on a lower opacity is always, okay, maybe I can save it, maybe I can pick up this head is too big, so I'll just shrink it and then work from there. And usually that's not what you want to do. You want to start fresh and really fast. Beautiful, beautiful nature behind them. What happens usually, which is what I'm thinking right now, that I want to separate this from this and just do two separate comic pages. This happens frequently because I think, okay, this is good, but it needs a transition from this to from this page to this. So I'm gonna make a new one and just split them. This will make it good. This means I can make maybe some marks of blood or something. Makes it clear that he was dragged off. It's always fun to draw AUs. That's really what I like to do most of the time. Whose? Yeah, I think that's how it's used for it. Little bit of a waste though, to do a whole panel just for a shoe. Okay, no, I know what I want to do. I want to do like the track marks leading somewhere. In the middle of the bushes, if I can draw bushes. See, this is what I'm talking about when I say get references. Because this part, getting the ideas, is fun. And it's fun to draw something like this. But then transforming this into anything that looks good, when you have little to no experience drawing foliage, it sucks. And nobody will fault you if you just decide to draw, to use references and use resources instead of drawing this by hand. Believe me. Just to make it my point really. Blood. Not that much blood though. It's a little bit too much. The guy would bleed out before even getting anywhere. Are you guys working on anything while I'm doing this? Just wondering. Oh. Everyone's sketching. I think you're all sketchy. Such a dad joke. Thinking of what would make for a good transition from this page to this one. Maybe someone calling for help. Have I studied comic planning? No, I haven't. I did have some ideas of joining, taking courses and stuff like that, but I just never did, because when I was trying to do one of those courses online, and I didn't know it was nearly none of it was digital, which in and of itself, it's not what I'm looking for. And it focused a lot on the traditional comics drawing process, which goes through a lot of non-digital art. I don't know if you knew that, but a lot of it goes through storyboards drawn by hand on paper, and then screened and transformed by a line artist or even the same comic book artist into an actual comic, which is great, just not for me. I know I have not studied any type of other comic planning. I'm just using my memory of movies in general. What would make characters look back, for example? Here I'm thinking it would be cool if they heard a scream and then everyone looked back. Yeah, I do think kind of like a movie director. More like who draws, who designs the plot. The screenwriter, right? More like the screenwriter than the director. Because what I want to do is I want to think about what would convey this message or this plot in the easiest way, the best way. Because, for example, in this scene, I want to draw them looking back because something happened that tips them off that something isn't right. But how will I do that? So I set up a scene where they're all happy around the campfire, which sets up basically the idea of the comic, that they're campers, that they're in 80s clothing, 70s clothing, whatever. And then I want to do this transition as easy as possible. So I'm not going to draw someone being dragged away, for example, because that's hard. And that wouldn't really serve us very well. I will just draw the least amount I need to draw that I can make look good. So in this case, it'll be a lot of trees and someone yelling in the distance. And the Titans are looking worried. The question is how I'm going to draw that. Okay, I think I know. Can make a little scene here where they're happily chatting away. Which then becomes, like their peace is broken by someone yelling. Yeah, I do usually, when I'm drawing a comic, I keep everything in one file. And then in different folders like this. Thing is that since I'm not drawing like a traditional manga or a traditional comic where I want to draw a lot of details everywhere, it conditions me so that I don't do very difficult panels. For example, right now I'm thinking that I could draw, this is them being peaceful and then they hear the shout, and then this is what happens after they hear the shout. The thing with that is, what would they do after they hear the shout? Probably they would get up and run in the shout's direction and maybe leave everything disorganized behind. But how do I do that without, how do I draw that in a simple way that conveys that they did that, you know? And I'm thinking of whether or not I should just delete these two panels and just make this something more dynamic like this. Let me show you. With the birds flying away. Yeah, maybe this will be easier. Yeah, see? This will be much easier to draw. Maybe it won't be as expressive as the other one, but it's all about how much effort you want to put into a comic, I guess. It also depends on how many pages that comic will have. I'm saying comic, manga, whatever. Because if you're like me and you have a full-time job and then you go home and all you want to do is draw, and you want to express an idea. I for example, have a lot of ideas I want to experiment with, and if I get stuck on this one idea, I know I won't be happy with that. So the goal is to do this as fast as possible, convey the idea as fast as possible, and move on. Trial and error that has shown me that this is how I thrive as an artist, personally. This is what makes me the happiest. Get a reference later. Since I already have these two, let's start building these out with references. I was thinking of making Dick and the others into camp counselors, but then I would have to draw a lot of little children, so I'm not doing that. Although I do think they would make for great camp counselors. It would be fun. Oh, another thing that's really important is to find the right references. This might sound obvious, but a lot of the time you think, okay, this reference will work, but it's not the easiest way to go about using a reference. Maybe because the people in the reference are sitting in very weird poses. That's a thing, because then when you transfer those poses into your drawing, they don't look right, and that happens. So you have to always be careful when you're choosing a reference. This one looks great to me. But it's missing people. Here's a good example of what's probably a bad reference. This looks good, but I'll show you how I would trace this. This is what not to do, by the way. This looks all wonky, and you won't be able to work with this. See, you can't see where where everything starts and everything ends. But this idea in general is good, because if you wanna do a night scene, you can probably omit a lot of details from your drawings, because you can make a central light like it is here. Draw these people, the people that are facing the campfire really well, and then the people that are facing the away from the campfire or away from the camera, you can remove a lot of their details. So, for example, just draw silhouettes. As long as those silhouettes look right. This one looks really skinny. Okay. This would be a more interesting silhouette. See? Much more interesting. Who would be the first Titan to die, by the way? By Slade's hand. I'm trying to think and I'm torn. I think maybe Roy. No capes. No capes, just regular teenagers. Yeah, Roy. Yeah, for sure, Roy. Yeah, Gar is too much of a... Yeah, Gar. Maybe Gar. Poor boy. This will be Roy. Yeah, this will be Roy. I always struggle with this pose, I guess. But it looks right. Gar maybe would be the lucky one that got away, because he tripped and fell and knocked himself out, but since he's lying in the foliage, Slade couldn't find him. I am a little disappointed that I'm drawing this instead of rugged mountain man Dick. I did put up a poll last night to see what people would choose. And they obviously, I knew they would choose this, but still I asked just in case. I do like this idea as well. Just saying, it would be fun to draw him with a beard. See, this is where I understand I need a reference. Yeah, probably those of us that like bearded Dick. I think that it's a very small number of people. I mean, I don't know. Maybe maybe in our fandom, because Dick usually is portrayed as, at least in fandom, in our circles, as a very hairless guy that's kind of feminine, I guess. Which is fine. I also do that sometimes. But it's also fun to pick up a very... Maybe he's undercover or something and he looks more rugged than usual. And to have someone like Slade, for example, grab him and say, like, what you need is a daddy. Or something like that, you know? Like, you can't win a DILF contest against Slade. And this reference isn't helping me. This reference is so weird. This is better. Okay. Yeah, Dilf. Dick is feminine by default. I like that also. I like that interpretation of him also. Just, it's not our fault you hang around Jason and Slade and Bruce. Huge. I'm taking way too long on something that doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter. None of this matters. Less is more. Nope. Okay. I wonder if I should... I kind of want to. I was thinking of whether or not I should draw Starfire with her signature fully green eyes. But I want to. So I will. No explanation, just fully green eyes. Yeah, isn't it fun when you have a lot of male characters and you have to differentiate between them? So you have to draw Dick like a twink, comparatively. It's fun. It doesn't help that he's wearing that. No, this is good. This will make it so I don't have to draw the fire pit. If I was doing an illustration, I wouldn't, but since I'm not, I still have another full page to do after this. I'm just gonna put Donna in front of the whole thing. Sorry, Donna. Or better yet, thank you, Donna. Okay. How are your sketches going? Already on the coloring part. You work fast. What kind of thread were you reading that got you so inspired? Okay. Understandable. Say no more. This is going on YouTube. I mean, it's fine obviously for me, but you know how YouTube is. They might just strike the video down for no reason, even if it's unlisted. What the fuck am I doing with his hair? Keep it simple, I guess. I'll get back to it. Yeah, line art. I think that's what it's called. I actually don't do line art, usually. I clean up my sketch. Don't know how you guys do it, but that's usually easier for me. See? That sounds like a great idea, birds. Very, maybe a little complicated, especially if you want to draw wolves. You don't have a lot of experience drawing that, but I think it's a really good project. Kind of want to draw Connor. I know he was only part of the. I mean, not even the Titans. Was that the Young Justice team name? I don't remember. But I like them. Canon is so weird. What is canon? They just did a lot of stuff. So they can't say it's not canon. I won't draw him though. It would be too confusing. If I could, Calder would be right up there with the official. Just cool, just a cool character in general. This will be Wally. I'll take a 5-minute break just to refill my water and go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Feel free to share in the chat if you want, whatever you're drawing. Oh my god, okay, I'm back. Just saw the picture you shared. So good. So good. First of all, Clark Dick, always good. Always good. Never enough of that. And second of all, such a great reference picture. It'll look great. I did try to use a similar like reference picture of vintage couple for my art book, and it's not easy. They're usually in very specific poses, their faces, I mean. And the women always look very similar and pretty, and that it's not an easy art style to imitate, I think. Oops. Sorry, Wally. Actually, a couple I don't see a lot, and I don't know why, because it's a great couple. Is Clark, Dick, Bruce. Like, it just makes sense, but it's not very. When they appear in a threesome, it's usually those three, but still not as frequent as I hoped they would be. Especially since Clark and Dick have such a close relationship. What are some Dick pairings that you like and you don't see often? For me, it probably maybe Calder Dick, because I think Calder is just so hot. Okay. First of all, love Rob Star in what sense? Like, for me, I really like Starfire with Dick when she's stopping, because when he's her little husband boy, I like that. Which is how I draw them, but I don't know if that's what you're talking about. Yeah, pretty much. It's so good. I've actually been thinking about drawing. I don't know if probably an illustration with evil Empress Starfire and I don't know if you've seen my drawings of Dick as one of the Pink Lanterns, but Pink Lantern Dick, husband to terrible Empress Starfire. So on my to-do list. Right now I'm focused on finishing my book, so we can ship out at the end of the month, but after that maybe this comic and that. Ooh, this already looks pretty good. I like it, birds. I like the wolf in particular. I like how it kind of blends into the background. As for what you said, daughter, can you please share? I love Garfic so much. I know very little about it because I didn't read the original comics. I have a lot of unread comics. I've read a lot of them, for sure. Mostly New 52, because that's where I started, but I haven't read a lot of Garth related comics. I have some now that they're doing a new Teen Titans run with the original Titans. I mean, I don't know if the original Titans, but Garth is there, so I'm happy about that. I'm I went looking for a camp name generator because Laszlo, I mean, it's fine, but it wasn't doing it for me. And it sucks. All these names suck. Camp Guidance, Camp Luck, Camp Cherish, Camp Struggle, Camp Detention. What the fuck is this? Camp Avalanche. I don't think this is a good name for a camp. Hello? Camp Struggle for real, yeah. Camp Struggle. Camp Killer. Camp Don't. Camp Crystal Lake is the name of the original one, I see. Okay. Oh yeah. It's the Scooby Doo one, but that's also the one where with Friday the 13th. It hurts me a little bit, by the way, making Slade the killer, not Jason. Simply because of the name. Camp Lockdown, please. Give me something I can actually fucking use. Come on. Camp Waterfall or something, I don't know. Americans in the room, give me your wisdom. I like the idea for that fic. I'm I never read unfinished fics, which is hilarious because I have a lot of unfinished fics, but I never read them, which is really sad because I know that there are a lot of really good fics out there that I just haven't read because they're unfinished. Falling Creek Camp. Waterfall Camp? You collect whips like like Bruce collects children. You know what I think? I think at some point there will be a Robin after Damien, just because they can't think of anything new to do, and it'll suck because we'll never be done. Camp Mangrove. I like that one. Wait, I like it really a lot because Mangrove I like because you Camp Man, if that makes sense. Is there a combination of words that together are not spooky, but if you take one of them, they are foreboding? Like two words together, like mangrove, a grove of man. Does that make sense? Let me see what kind of fonts I have that I can use for this. I know it's a plant, but if you separate the words man and grove, like you imagine you have bloodstains over grove, which is what I'm planning to do on part of this. It could work. Okay, I'm painting in the wrong color. Wicked Ridge. Ooh, Wicked Ridge is cool. Okay, I like that. It's a good font for this. I'm not the greatest at that. Welcome. Just have to write it. Side. Oh. Oops. Okay. This'll do. I'm not gonna spend any longer. No. I know there's a way to curve this, but I don't know how. And I can do this. Sure, why not? It'll look fine. Cannot emphasize enough how much you should prioritize doing things fast versus doing them meticulously, because that's how you end up actually finishing comics. Where did I keep my blood splatters? This is the issue with not being organized. It's not this one. Okay, I'll just re-download it. Where is it? Phew. This is so sad. Where is it? Thank God I shared it already. Let me see if I can find it. No. Okay, here it is. Don't know why I can't find it, but now I will be able to find it. It's taking a long time to download, huh? Can't find my fucking brushes. Sucks. Okay, it's these. 5 hours of looking at them. I bet they're here somewhere. Just get in the box. There is, I'm kind of categorizing them here. The issue is that a lot of them are in Japanese, and that's not great. When you download them, they're kind of, let's see, this is the same as the other one. If you have to organize them yourself, basically, either through like these folders, if you have like images. For example, this is an image. This you will never be able to drag and make it into a brush. So I keep them here, most sound effects. But as for brushes, I have, see, this is since it's Japanese name, so it's whatever. Kind of get used to it. I don't think I've ever drawn Donna before. So, just make sure I draw her right. I'll be going in a little bit, by the way, because it's already almost 10 for me. I mean 40 to 10, but still I have to get ready for tomorrow. Still managed to advance a lot with this comic today, which is good. Yeah. I also don't want to go to work tomorrow. If only the weekend was 3 days instead of 2. I wanted to show you though, before I went home, how you could color this really easily. So I'm gonna do that step, although it's not ready for that. Okay? So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna merge visible layer to a new layer. And this will really give you a sense of how easy it is. So now I'm gonna just color everything off-white. Go with this brush, for example. Since there's going to be a fireplace here, a fire pit here, let's imagine, let's put it like this. These guys are going to be a darker tone. Because they're facing away from us. And it also makes it much easier to render. Can I set this to multiply? No, set it to normal. That's fine. This cozier and draw the eye in towards this. Okay, this to be this shade. The darkest shade. This is just very quick, very easy to define colors because I'm just picking them off from other panels in the same page. Sure, why not? It's a roaring fire. Okay. Okay. Put this here. I need to give like the illusion of there being vegetation here. Probably do this in a different way if I weren't doing this very fast, but you know. give the illusion that it's amongst the trees. See if I can do that. Goes into the night sky. Okay. Sure. And maybe these have a glow to them because they're close to the campfire. Now, ta-da! Okay. So you merge all of this and you say edit, tone color, gradient map. This one, for example, would be very good because it's easy to see that it's a flame. You can even put another color in here to give a little bit more distinction. I want the darkest color to be here. Okay. Let's try with this one. You can leave it as is. I usually don't. I usually set it to hue or color. Color is good usually. Or overlay. It all depends on what effect you want to go for. This time I'll set it to color. And then I'll merge it again. Then I can play around with the values here with this. Usually I like it a little bit darker than what it's set so as. Let me see, lighter. Okay, this is a good. Okay. Okay, so maybe what I would do here, since this isn't very easy to see, I would pick up the sound effect, bring it forward, and set up something like this behind it, so it pops. Don't know, just made it in this color so they know that it's a sound effect. Or maybe even you could even do like a bubble. Something like this. Okay. I'm gonna go with a completely different gradient map. Let me see. This one gives a nice vintage look. I like using this on top of regular illustrations and then setting it to overlay with like 20% opacity or something, so it brings the colors together and gives it a nice vintage look. This one too. This one's really nice if you have. I mean, this one's nice. A lot of them are nice in general. They all change the mood a little. You have to be careful. So you can see here that these two colors are too close together. It's these two values, and it gives off this weird it turns into this weird effect, which isn't great. So what you do in those situations, for example, you can switch this to a darker purple. For example, it's still a different color, but it's better. Or you can just delete it. This one I also like to use. Let's put the color here. Okay. Let's set it to overlay. Highlight. Color. Color is just the best. You can do something cool with this, which is if this is set to color, you can just change the colors. So set a new layer to color, and if you want, for example, this to be redder, just pick up color and do this. See? Or this, for example, you want this to bleed better. I did this when I was coloring, for example, when I color skin. What happens usually when you color skin with this method is that sometimes it picks a weird color for the skin, which is, you're painting with blues and stuff. Sometimes that doesn't look as good. So what I had to do was go over it with a few layers of color layer or overlay layer, hue layer, to bring the colors to a color, bring the skin colors to a more acceptable hues. But you can do a lot of stuff with this. You can also not use the full, you don't have to go full throttle with the color. You can, nope, did it on the wrong layer. You can also change the values. So when you set the color on top, it looks completely different. You can do a lot of stuff. See how easy it was to color? I didn't do anything. Yeah, that's why I really suggest using this instead of coloring everything bit by bit. But that will be the end of our workshop. Still have a little time if you guys want to ask anything, if I can help. Otherwise, I'm done. Yeah, I think gradient maps are really, really useful. I certainly, since I started using them, I haven't looked back. I use them everywhere, including in illustrations. Absolutely my pleasure. I'm more than happy to help regarding this. Not that I'm an expert, but I have learned some things while drawing these comics. Like some things I really don't want you guys to worry about, like coloring everything bit by bit. That one was hellish, honestly. So if I can help, even outside of this workshop, obviously, if you want me to explain anything, want me to share resources, just say the word. Maybe if I would redraw Face Off, one thing I might do instead of just coloring everything, every part, there is one thing you can do. If you don't want to color everything bit by bit, but still streamline it a little bit, is to first of all, set up a color palette, and then you could, for example, say my color palette is this, this, this. I could, and this is what I should have done, realistically. You could just set up colors in big swaths of the canvas. So this whole thing will be in red. And then in this interaction, I want him to be in red. You set up like whole colors this way, not just one or two, not just like this. No, okay, now I'm gonna color Donna's hair. No. Does that make sense? This would also make for a good strategy if you don't want to use gradient maps, because it lets you work on values. For example, I would leave blank spaces to say that there was a tree here, for example. I don't know. And this could be, I could use the white space to say, do stars, if I can do them, please. This would be red, but just the shadows, for example. And this whole thing would be blue. These guys would be gray. If you see what I mean. Instead of using one color for each panel, you decide immediately where every color is going to be. This is harder to do, I think, but it might have been a better way to do what I did with Face Off. See? This makes for some interesting things also. And if you do different colors or different layers, you can even add, stuff like this, certain transparency to different layers. Don't know. It might be worth checking out. Might be preferable. Depends on your style, I guess. but it might also look a little more flat, so be warned of that. Okay, I think I've imparted all the knowledge I could, and I need to get ready for tomorrow, so thank you for staying with me as I explained a little bit about my process. This was very nice. Maybe we can do this again in the future if you guys are interested. Not necessarily as a workshop, just hanging out. Okay. Well, good night, guys. See ya. I'll be uploading this later on YouTube and I'll share it here. Bye.